So in order to adjust the jewels, I decided to capture the pallet fork in my staking set, so I've got some stability here. I was able to move one of the settings out completely a few seconds ago, and I've pushed it back in, but not all the way. I've just pushed it and I've left it a little bit of a gap there. And I'm not sure if that's too much or too little bit of a gap, but I should be able to tell after I've reinstalled everything. So, but what I did was I took, see if I can do it on this side here too, is I've got a very small pair of tweezers here, and I've captured the jewel with my brass tweezers on one side like this, and I'm pushing on the metal part of the pallet fork while I'm actually pushing the jewel from the base to see if I can move it. And there you go. So it came out. So this seems to be a fairly successful way of moving that jewel. And I took all the shellac off that already, so now I'm going to push this back in again. And I'm going to go in, but not very far. And I've got to be super careful here. There we go. I've left a little tiny gap there. Now, because I'm super anal retentive, I'm going to actually drop a very fine piece of shellac onto that surface. On both these settings, just to make sure that the settings themselves will stay in place as I perform this procedure here. Somebody said that watchmaking is more difficult than brain surgery, and I can see that. I can tell one of these jewels is bent a bit. And I use the flat part of my tweezers to make sure they're level. And with this jewel on this side here, I've got a bit too much of a gap, so I want to push that in a bit more. Maybe it's not too much. It's hard to tell. I would like it to go in just a tad more. And a tad, of course, is a maritime measurement. That's too much. Jogging this back and forth until I get the right distance. There we go. Just tapping the back of the of this pallet fork while I'm holding it. And I actually don't know if that's the right distance or not, but I'm going to take a look and make sure that the everything is flat. It's tricky stuff, folks. This is very tricky stuff. All right, both these jewels could actually go down just a little bit on the front. There we go. That's perfect right there. So now what I want to do is add just a little tiny bit of shellac on there. And I think I can use my liquid shellac and then use a soldering iron to solidify it. So let's just see how well that works. Because if this doesn't work, if it's not right, I'm going to have to remove that shellac. But I have to have some shellac in there in order to hold this jewel in place. Now, a friend of mine, Sonny Morehouse, said to me, JD, you're going to need to put some more denatured alcohol in that little shellac you got. It's not liquidy enough. I said, well, I haven't done that yet. He's not wrong, but I haven't done it yet. So I'm going to, this stuff will be a bit stringy, but I'm going to use it anyway. Because I want this to be shellacked in nicely. So it doesn't go anywhere. It's a bit messy. You know, if you're lucky, you can pull out a nice string of this stuff and then lay it down on the part. Like that. And like that. And the heat should collapse that down a bit. I'm using a soldering iron, an old electronic or electrical soldering iron here. And I've got a there we go. So that should hold these jewels in place, and that will solidify within seconds. It's already hard. Now that should keep the jewel from moving around. And now I can test this. Sorry, I just realized that, there we go. I realized I was looking at the back of this with the video. So anyway, I just put the soldering iron, here and here, and the shellac melted down. So now I'm going to integrate the pallet fork back into this depthing tool and see where I've gotten. I need to add more liquid dough to that shellac. Sonny Morehouse is right. Damn you, Sonny. Damn you. You're right. So I've adjusted the palette stones here, and again, I'm not sure whether it's going to be good or not. So I'm going to use this little thumb thing so I can push the back of the depthing tool without stabbing my finger. Alright, I missed. It's like an arrow that misses its target. Try again. This stuff can be very painful. Alright, I missed again. Missing under the pressure of a camera. This is not easy. I need to get much closer, and if I didn't have to film this, I'd probably be a lot better. But I've decided to film it. I can see one of the jewels here is sticking up a bit. It's actually not, the shellac is not solid on that jewel. I'm going to have to shellac these better. For now, I'm just concerned about the lock and unlock. So let me see if I can get this in here. Well, I keep missing the hole. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to start swearing soon. Because this is an impossible thing to do. I think it's difficult to do under camera. I need to get the angles better. So you're watching a very painful exercise. Hopefully you're appreciating the pain. Fuck sakes. This is really pissing me off. It's either going too high or too low on this part. Holy frig. This is totally pissing me off. I think if I had this on a vise and I was able to look at it properly, I wouldn't have this problem. All right. Finally, holy shit. That was not easy. I'm going to tighten this up here. I just want to see the stone interaction. So I would lift this up at an angle and have a look at that. All right, and I know those stones are a bit loose. I just wanted to see if that gap I put in there is appropriate. So that would definitely lock on this side. And it would definitely lock on this side. I think it's good. Yeah, I think that's good. From what I'm seeing, it should work. So we're gonna solder those or shellac those stones in properly and forget the nonsense and go from there. So that's a very frustrating but hopefully a decent video for you to watch. There I have shellacked the jewels in. You might say it's a bit of an overkill, the amount of shellac I put on, but I wanted to make sure these jewels stayed in place. So here they are, shellacked in, and I shellacked them on, I didn't use the liquid shellac, sorry Sonny. I used regular shellac, and I did it on both sides. I did it on the original side here, and I thought, well, no, I need to get these jewels solidly in there, so I did it on the other side too, on the bottom side. So hopefully, I don't think that'll interfere with anything because the jewels are nice and clean and visible. So hopefully the depthing is perfect. You can see a small gap in the jewel on this side here. You can see a very small gap in there. Just zoom in maybe or focus a bit. Yeah, so you can see a very small gap in the right there. And that gap that I measured in the depthing tool should be appropriate. And the same as the jewel on the other side, or the stone on the other side. So now I'm going to I'm going to reassemble this baby and see how well or not well I've done. If it doesn't work, I've got to throw this back in alcohol and start again. All right, let's reassemble this puppy dog. I'm going to put the escapement wheel in first, and that goes right here. Let me just dip this in the Rodico for a second here. Just to make sure these pivots are nice and clean. And the escapement wheel goes right here, and I can't remember whether it's above or below the other wheel. Maybe below that wheel. So the other wheel needs to lightly come up a bit and go in last. Like that. And then this wheel goes in there, and you can see the interaction here between the two. And then I'm going to do what I've done every time, is put the pallet fork on this plate. Alright, grab the pallet fork here, and it's the short pivot is down. I gotta make sure it's in the right direction here. And the mouth of the pallet fork goes right in there. And there we go. Pallet fork is in place. And like I have said a number of times, in order to hold it on the plate, the easiest thing to do is take a very small string of Rodico, like a super small string of Rodico, and roll that up, and I take that Rodico, and this one has a small hair on it. Just gotta remove that hair. I don't know how anything gets a hair on it with me around. But anyway, take that Rodico here, and I want to go on the side where the other wheels aren't, and press that down lightly onto the plate. Takes a few seconds for this thing to stick properly, but it eventually does. Come on. I just want it to hold the pallet fork in place, that's all. So that's good there. And now I'll lower the plate on. So like I said before, with the full plate movement, this is not an easy chore, but make sure my pallet fork is between the banking pins, and I'm going to just lower this on. And hopefully I don't have to jog the wheels too much. And all I do is I look straight down at where the where everything should fit. And I'm going to get a few pivots that are going to stick in there and a few that won't. And now I'm going to get my my jogging tool here and just hold my finger on the top and jog things around a bit. I should put a glove on for this because I don't want to leave fingerprints on the watch. It's actually funny how the whole thing always goes down at once. I take one gear and the whole thing goes bam, and all the pivots go through. So now I just have to put the screws in, and I've got them aligned so they're triangles, so I make sure the right screw goes in the right hole. And you have to watch me fumble around with the screws. I got to get the right screwdriver here. And I took the band-aid off my finger today so I don't have the band-aid interfering with what I'm trying to do here. Come on, get in there. Oh, don't go up. I just have to make sure the pivots are still in the holes. Yep, everything's good still. And again, I'm not sure if the stones in the pallet fork, they seem to be the right distance away, but you're never really sure. So this is trying this. I'm not going to tighten things down too much. I'll just put a very minor wind on the watch and see if the pallet fork snaps back and forth. So this might fix the problem, but I think that as I said before, the impulse jewel in the roller table looks like it's at an angle. So it's going to cause me problems, I know it. Alright, that's that. And then the plate for the mainspring goes on top here. And then the two screws, like I said before, I've got them arranged so they kind of know where they're supposed to be. I've got this little paper cutout here that shows me where the screws go. And the only reason for that is that one of these holes needed to be adjusted to accommodate the fact it was stripped. Yeah, that's good there. Putting those in, everything is snug but not super tight. I just want to see if I got any success at all here. I said this says become a Franken watch. I guess the owner told me that this watch did go to a watchmaker somewhere in Illinois, and they screwed it up. I can tell by all the problems it had. Oh my God, right? Oh my God. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to work. I don't have my hopes up, but I'm going to try. So we're just going to put a bit of a wind on this, on the mainspring. That should be enough to see if they've got any interaction at all with the pallet fork. Oh, I still have the Rodico in there. Let me get that out first. Well, very disappointing. The pallet fork snaps one way but doesn't snap the other way, which means one of the jewels is probably out too far, too deep. It doesn't look like it's snapping. Oh, there's a snapping there. It's snapping that way, and it's snapping that way. Maybe I'm wrong here. I want to make sure that when it snaps, that the escapement wheel is actually moving. It's so hard to test on these watches, these full plate movements. Alright, so that's good. It moved once. Okay, it is snapping back and forth now. Oh my God, this is very. I'm gonna have to videotape this and have a look and see what the wheel is doing. The escapement wheel is doing when I snap this back and forth. Yeah, it's snapped back. So that's a nice snap there. And yes, it is snapping the other way, which means that the stone is being pushed by the foot of the pallet fork. Yeah, so I'm getting snapping both ways, but I don't think, if you look at the impulse jewel here, it's at a bit of an angle. So let me just see if I can, here, you see that impulse jewel? It looks like it's at a bit of an angle, pushing outward, and the jewel goes way up into the roller table. So that's probably the next problem. Unbelievable watch here. Unbelievable. I had one of the guys I know, Dennis actually, said he was crying when he saw me doing work on this thing the other day. It's a time eater. It is absolutely a time eater. So let me just put this back in. I usually don't give up on anything though. That's my biggest problem. Yep. So I'm just going to put this back together here and see if I get any motion. The pallet fork was snapping back and forth, so that's good. That means the stones were likely set in the end correctly. But how they're interacting with the impulse jewel is another story. Yeah, I can see the escapement wheel moving back and forth, but not really advancing, which means there might be a problem with the interaction with the escapement wheel. The actual escapement wheel is going back and forth, pallet fork. Yeah, I don't know. Because it was snapping back and forth, which means there was power going to the watch. But I bet you any money that impulse jewel is a problem. Any money. Anyway, that's enough for now. Hope you're enjoying this. I can't say that I am, because I've been working so hard on this watch. It's just a mess. Might be the interaction of the impulse jewel now that needs to be addressed. Yeah, it's, I'm going to put a little more power on it though. Something seems to be stuck. I don't think I need any more problems with this watch. unwind it, you have to stick a key in the hole right here. See if I can show you that. Well, pushing inward here, and then it'll unwind. And just unstick it here and then wind it up a bit more. There we go. It gets to a point where it doesn't want to wind anymore. I'm not sure what that is. One of the gears maybe, who knows. There will be a point where I may have to give up. Anyway, that's good enough for now. I'm going to just take the power off this watch and set it aside. I can't work on this for a few days now, and we'll think about what might be wrong. And I'll catch you later.